Talent is distributed across Sri Lanka, but risk capital, opportunities, and network are not. Mumtaz is a part of sustainable development, part of WUSC. Rajendra Theagrajah is a pillar in the community of banking, financial institutions, and institutions at scale. I have these two here with me to talk about what angel investing is and what the upcoming event, the Angel Forum, will look like. Mumtaz, Rajendran, welcome, and thank you for being here. Mumtaz, I'll start with you. Mumtaz, why did you really join into this field in terms of sustainable development and creating opportunities for people?
I first started in the private sector, but my first job in the development sector took me to the conflict zone. Every day I would meet people who are resilient, who are strong, who are ambitious, who hasn't given up hope, who are innovative. People who don't have water, who don't have livelihoods, who don't have food, have found very creative ways to make that happen in their daily lives. So ever since then, I haven't looked back. I've worked across all of Sri Lanka. I've also traveled to many countries, and I see that resilience as one of the biggest assets a country can have. And in my own small way, I'm trying to create a change, but work at a systems level so that our policies are enabling environments and are people ready to support those who are left behind, who are underrepresented, and who are invisible.
Amazing. That's amazing work. Thank you. Thea, I'm just going to move on to you next. You have worked across multiple sectors and just being dominant in a lot of fields. Just one question would be, in the Sri Lankan market, what do you see that keeps it consistent for you to, keep, just being here, investing here, and just working with Sri Lanka?
3 points. Having faced a bomb blast in 1996 and now seeing an environment which doesn't have grenades and bombs popping up in front of you, I see everything else as an upside. Point one. The second thing is that the level of energy which Sri Lankan youth tends to demonstrate shows a lot of promise. And the third thing is, even though for the last 3 to 4 decades, Sri Lanka has faced multiple waves of challenges, ups and downs, people of Sri Lanka seem to bounce back with energy and resilience. The resilience, I think these are the 3 factors which keeps me motivated and encourage, support the ecosystem in Sri Lanka.
Amazing. Thank you. If I move on to the next question, Mumtaz, WUSC. I don't think a lot of people know what WUSC is, right? So why don't you, who is heading WUSC in Sri Lanka right now, just give us an explanation of what WUSC is?
WUSC is a global organization headquartered in Canada. Our vision is a world where all young people thrive and belong. So basically our mandate is to support all young people in their economic and education outcomes. So we use catalytic funds such as from Global Affairs Canada to remove barriers faced by young people in their exploration of education and economic pathways. We work with local partners, so we don't directly implement, which is why you don't hear us too much. We partner with local organizations who are strong in an ecosystem like the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also look at technical vocational training as well. We've been in Sri Lanka for the past 36 years officially, but our first intervention was in 1979. We've worked with government, private sector, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and we work at a systems level. We identify barriers that are brought in by a system and work towards changing that so that young people can achieve their full potential. We do have a strong gender lens, and we look through gender lens in terms of all of our programming. where women most often get underrepresented, is invisible, is not brought into the right conversations. Decisions are made on behalf of them, and they're never represented in those decision-making forums. So big part of our advocacy work is to make sure that women are represented, where their decisions regarding their life or their economic opportunities are made, and give them the agency, the space, and the leadership that they deserve.
Amazing. It's quite amazing work. Thank you. Thea, I'm just going to move on to the next one with you. You are chairing multiple boards and just being across Sri Lanka and multiple, companies and heading those. Can I ask, can you tell the audience that are looking now just what do you do right now a little bit? And also, so, you get an explanation, and also in terms of what these new companies and the old companies, have a differentiator, and then is there a bridge that could really connect these two as well?
So in terms of active executive management roles, I hung up my boots about 6 years ago in terms of corporate life. I still do play in the capacity of an independent non-executive director on a few boards, but more excitingly and interestingly, I've embraced the startup ecosystem. I was one of the founding angels of Lankan Angel Network. That was to support that overall network. But well before that, I actually started on my own capacity to invest in a few startups. At the moment, I have investments in about 5 startups. But the founding principle to me, in my own personal finances, I would only allocate an amount of funds, which is something which I am willing to lose as opposed to keeping the home fires burning. So that's the cardinal principle for me. And wherever I get involved, why do I look at these startups? Purely from the view, having run banks and been involved in banking in Sri Lanka for more than 3 decades, you always see the small and medium sector always looking for capital, but also beyond capital, for the sort of mentorship, market access. Very often they do what the neighbor does, doesn't look at competitiveness, they look at subsidies. And I think here is an opportunity to not just provide capital, but also a different conversation while mentoring these entrepreneurs, explaining to them how they should compete, not only in the local space, but also in the regional or global space, and how not to depend on subsidies and protection. So that is the excitement of me wanting to get involved in this space.
Interesting. Amazing. Moving on to the next question is actually for the both of you. Right. I know, Mumtaz, you work a lot outstation more than I think in Colombo. I think I'm correct in that sense.
Yeah.
Supporting a lot of rural areas and whatnot. And you are both as well. I know you also invest in a lot in Jaffna as well, and then even in Colombo. But one of the questions is, who is actually investable, right? To put more context into it, right? Do the founders need to be investor ready, or is it like it's a more chicken and egg situation? But do the investors need to assess risk in terms of like angel investing and change their mind about how it's not private equity, right?
Should I can go?
Please do.
So I think the way I normally look at it is, when I look at a prospective founder or founders, what I look is to see, is there a burning fire in their belly? So unless there is a fire burning, if I don't sense it, then the plot is lost.
Yes.
And the story, why, what do they want to do with that idea? Have they thought through the process? Obviously, there will be gaps. Will they be willing to learn from others? So I think it's a combination of a number of factors which I will look at. For me to assess in my mind whether a particular founder is investable, more than the balance sheet, etc., it is the mindset of the founder. But most importantly is the
The fire burning inside. Yes. I had the same conversation with Rajan, and it's the same thing. They look at the founder, how they pivot, and how they face these situations. It's quite amazing. Mumtaz, what do you think?
So the project that we launched 4 years ago, actually, Thea was one of the brains that we tapped to design that project. We are looking at 5 areas of intervention because there are different elements that need to come at the right time when it comes to the right kind of incubation and acceleration support, the access to markets, the right kind of access to finance, right? The right kind of capital. If it doesn't come at the right time, then all of these other matters it doesn't matter because, you don't have the money to sort of scale a good idea. The other piece was business development support. We've noticed a lot of plug and play when it comes to each company, each founder, each sector, each business is very different to one another. If you plug and play the business development support, they can actually go up the wrong sort of path, and that can also be detrimental. And the last piece that we've actually invested in is the building the ecosystem around it. You can give all of this, but if the ecosystem and the culture of the ecosystem is not supporting a founder entrepreneur environment, that can also be detrimental. So I think it's all of these have very important roles to play, and which is why I think it's important for collaboration of this nature. We all see the same sort of vision. We all sort of contribute towards that because we are also a small nascent ecosystem. We don't have deep-rooted challenges right now. We can pivot. We can actually use the current context, situation, and really create them into opportunities to grow as an ecosystem. And that's what the project is really focused on. And we've partnered with most of the leading enterprise support organizations that are working in entrepreneurship support. Because if you meet, every August, I meet about 200, 300 entrepreneurs at the Innovation Festival. And I mentor them nonstop for 4 days. And every request is different. They are all at a different stage, right? So I always say, when people ask me, what does your project do? And I said, it gives choices, right? All of you young people, when you want to go to a university or job, how many options do you check before picking one? Our entrepreneurs, probably 4, 5, 10 years ago, they just had one service or one investor or one market to access, right? So I think things that LAN is doing, things that TI is doing is giving entrepreneurs options so that they have more chances to succeed and to thrive and to become proud of what they've created. So bringing people together is a big part of what we're doing. We don't play an active role in the ecosystem. Our role is that of a facilitator. Making sure that the people who need to be in the room are brought in and they're given the briefing and the entrepreneur is kept upfront and is a priority.
Amazing. Okay. So moving on to my next question. One key thing that is surrounding this angel investing ecosystem. Not everyone, but some, right? Think angel investing and again what WUSC or GIZ or any other sustainable development player does is charity, right? And I want to really change that whole understanding that it is not charity, right? That what we do is sustainable development, and that's 2 different things. So the question is to both of you. Tia, you want to answer that first?
So I think it's a misnomer to assume that everything what the names you mentioned are doing a charity. At least 1 or 2 of those focus very much on 2 things. One is the importance of circular economy and actually train people on the understanding of circular economy. And now increasingly, at least one of them addresses the importance of nature-based economy. So very important conversations going forward. The subject of charity, yes, there'll always be people who look at charity in Sri Lanka, which is also an important thing. But in terms of entrepreneur development, I think we need to be very clear that the quality of capital which supports entrepreneurship should not be of charitable nature. You will never get the best out of an entrepreneur if you throw money and say it's charity. So there won't be accountability.
Very true. Very true. Mumtaz?
I think historically Sri Lanka has come through charitable donations. We've had a 30 years in conflict. We've become very dependent on charitable donations and handouts and money being given without accountability. Development agencies function in a very different way. And a good example I can pull out is our own partnership, right? If this was charity, we could have held this event, paid the hotel, paid everything and come off, right? Why we have picked an important ecosystem actor like LAN is whatever that is being set up from the funding that we've received has to sustain beyond the project, beyond our intervention. And we would never take the center stage because the idea is that we highlight those individuals who are playing key roles. But also looking at entrepreneurship, I think there's a blurred line between self-employment, livelihood, and entrepreneurship, simply because that is also an evolution in how development work has happened. I know GIZ is doing amazing work with circular economy. There's EU, FAO, all of these are doing different projects. But you have to get into the nitty-gritty of looking at how they are implementing these projects to realize whether it's charity or actual development work. One of the fundamental ethos for us is gender, inclusion, and sustainability, right? If our project is not sustainable, it doesn't matter how many entrepreneurs we've created. If everybody's going to wrap up shop and walk away, that is not development, that is charity. So a big part of our work is working in the ecosystem, identifying actors, making sure that there is buy-in. We co-create, co-design programs from the agenda to the menu, I would say.
Yeah.
Who is invited? Are they invited? Do they walk in free? Do they pay for it? All of these really matter in terms of how development initiatives are implemented in order to make sure that those actions are sustainable beyond the project. And I think that's the difference between sustainable development and charity. With the entrepreneurs that we worked with, especially you said we go around a lot to the rural areas. Our primary focus is on the northern province because it is a province that hasn't had a lot of these interventions. We've also come across entrepreneurs by choice and entrepreneurs by necessity, because they don't have the privileges that Colombo or some of the more developed ecosystems or cities may have. There is an element of us wanting to handhold them in order to make sure that they are able to go that journey, but not with the confidence that once they do pass those hurdles that a development sector can provide, that they can definitely compete in any stage and any space in order to become thriving entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thank you. I can definitely vouch for the amount of paperwork I had to do in terms of making it sustainable that you put me through, definitely, right? So the next question, Thea, that's for you. You being in a lot of banking roles, financial institutions, and heading a lot of roles there, what do you think is the gap for a bank and a financial institution to come in to, angel investing level and investing in that sort of people? I know First Capital has come in now in a big way with Hatch, but in terms of other partners, what do you think?
I think in typical conventional commercial banks, the bulk of the funding comes from public acceptance of public deposits. When one accepts public deposits, there is a vested fiduciary duty to make sure that that amount of money is deployed responsibly. When one gets into the sort of startup entrepreneur type development, there is a different level of risk involved in that. So one needs to be able to balance as to what one can do and what one cannot do. And that's where the quality of private equity as well as VC funding supplements that challenge, where you are bringing a different quality of investment who understands the inherent risks, willing to take that risk for whatever reason, but willing to get their hands dirty. And that comes in the form of predominantly from 4 ways: direct investment and mentoring a particular startup, or not having the time to dedicate to an individual fund, but interest in the ecosystem and subscribing to a fund which has, like land for example, which has the professional and the infrastructure to go through the sanitization process. So you have 2 types of potential subscribers or investors who would come into this system, which are probably different from what a conventional commercial bank can
Okay.
understand.
Yes. So what you're saying is that it will take time for them to really come up to funding these startups at a point sometime. Okay. My next question is to you, Mumtaz. So we are having the event on the 11th of August, right? A little bit more time to go. After, we are having this event, what would you see as an end result or a sustainable, ongoing, consistent result that would produce out of this event?
Mohan is super excited. He's been non-stop texting me till he gets on a flight. But I think the idea is, one of the reasons why we wanted Mohan to come and do this is he understands the country and he is thriving in a far more developed ecosystem, right? One of the things is to bring some of those best practices. Angel investors actually meet the missing financing gap, right? You asked about banks. They have a specific role to play. And one of the things we're trying to do is, how does blended finance really support an entrepreneurial ecosystem? Maybe it's not the right time to banks to come in at the early stage, right? Maybe there's a different stage for banks to come. And right now, this is being mixed up. A lot of people go for loans at the wrong time and then go for investments at the wrong time. The idea is to sort of look at an entire entrepreneurial life cycle and see where investments should come in. In terms of results, I think we want people to meet each other. A big part of our ecosystem building is to sort of really people to connect, really understand, bring in individuals who have been practicing angel investing for many years, who've had successes, but also failures, right? Entrepreneurship mentors usually say, fail fast, fail cheap. I'm sure it's similar in investment, but failure is not a bad thing. Sometimes, it is part of the journey. So accepting that, because the wrong capital, the wrong form, the way it comes to an entrepreneur can actually kill a company, right? So big part of our work is to work with investors, but we work with 3 enterprise support organizations: Lankan Impact Investing Network, Hatch, and Real IT. They have demo days and pitch competitions throughout the year. We run several incubation and accelerator programs throughout the year. The idea is to increase the level of opportunities for angel investors to go meet these entrepreneurs, break down the silos a little bit, because Colombo, you have a lot of opportunities, but then when you look at the north, there's a lot of enterprises, thriving enterprises, and I'm sure Thea can also validate the, investment-ready enterprises. How do we sort of shine a light to the northern province and even some of the other provinces, and give a list of events and opportunities for these angels to go explore, have conversations, meet companies that are innovating right now, which if you stick to mainstream sourcing avenues, you're going to miss out on companies that are going to change the world, and your investment can definitely be a game changer if you are introduced at the right time. So this may be a one-off event with as an event, but then we want to sort of really find different events and networking opportunities, and also connecting a large number of entrepreneurs who deserve your patient capital.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the pieces that we are really focusing on.
Interesting. For my next question, it's a reveal sort of a thing. I think this was not really out. So, yeah, as your next role, stepping into LAN and taking on the role of chair, how do you see your vision for this role for the next 2 to 3 years?
So I believe that there has to be a process to formalize that. I have certainly conveyed my willingness to consider it. Assuming that it goes through a couple of things which I think I would want to focus on. One is, for whatever reason, this ecosystem appears to be very visible in Colombo, rightly. But I think there is a lot of opportunity in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of Sri Lanka to also improve the visibility and create subsets and try to connect them with what happens in Colombo and the region. Because again, this whole thing about entrepreneur development in startup can only be as vibrant if you actually have connect people, connect ideas, not just money, successes, failures, and also mentorship. And I think a lot of that mentorship very much in Colombo, but I think one needs to replicate that. And if I can give a very important comparable, which recently has taken place in my neighbor in India, in Tamil Nadu, while the predominant angel network is the Chennai Angels. In Chennai, you have another new thing which was set up a couple of years ago, which only focuses on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of Tamil Nadu, supporting entrepreneurs, startups in those ecosystems, mentoring and bringing them up, which helps the entire economy progress, not only concentration in one part. So I would definitely want to encourage and maybe replicate some of those best practices here. And certainly the other area I think for something like LAN is to improve the collaboration between an angel network, which is your DNA, and the innovation and incubation system. I think ideally there should be a closer link so that you have the incubation system naturally feeding leads into the investment network. And if I, for whatever it's worth, if I give one example which I am currently connected, is Trace, right? The expert city, and they are connected in a number of, not just Colombo. If I look at Makandura in Wayamba, they have bread. Now, very recently in Sabaragamuwa in Ratnapura, with the Nalanda Indavala incubator. So you have actually provincial centers of excellence working with local universities, kids, graduates, academics, which are now proliferating innovation. And I think with the innovation comes the need for capital. And that itself, I think, can connect with the quality of capital, which something like land would be able to foster. So those are two areas certainly I would want to increase and encourage the area of cooperation.
Amazing. Interesting. So just to add some context onto that, I joined LAN almost a year back. Since I took on heading LAN, what I saw was also that so much information is scattered around the ecosystem and it's not connected. So one of the main things that I took on to do is actually develop a portal. So all the founders, the investors and the ecosystem partners can be connected together. And then it's what the event will actually, one of the main things on the event that we'll be doing is we'll be launching the digital dashboard. So the dashboard exclusively will have, for our investors, they'll get the deals flow for the LAN members. But for the entire ecosystem, founders can log in share their proposals, keep it there. Investors can get to see it, but the founders will get to see all the events that is happening around the ecosystem, the grants, funding, all this, anything that is happening will be there. I already contacted most of the ecosystem to funnel in all their events there. So just wanted to add some context there.
So that's a very interesting thing you mentioned about grants, for example. While LAN may have a group of investors who will support a fund and probably a fund of fund, but in addition to that quality of capital, let's assume that you bring in a collaborative nature of some impact funds. What they will probably bring to the table is not rupees and cents or dollars all the time, very often non-cash support. Say, for example, in improving diversity, women empowerment, various types of capacity building in these entrepreneurs, which is as important as the rupees and cents. I think again the collaboration to build the strength of that ecosystem is very, very important.
Yes, more and more the reason that this dashboard, I want to just come in place and this launch and everyone to have access to it.
And I think the other, from what I understand at the agenda, I understand there are some people from government who are also going to be at the event. And I think it's a good opportunity to invite them, because I think it will give it's a two-way opportunity for the investor base to understand the current government thinking in terms of policy, and vice versa for the government to also listen and understand some of the challenges and aspirations from the investor community, so that there can be a closer harmonization instead of going in different directions.
Exactly. So before moving on to my last question, I just wanted to, I think Thea just mentioned that part in terms of what the event will entail. So Mohan will come from Toronto and then give a masterclass in terms of what his experience has been. And then we move on to an expert panel discussion, including some of the land patrons, yourself, and then also some of the senior government officials, including Dr. Hans. And then we move on to key strategic for MOUs that we'll be signing. One will be in terms of with Mumtaz and WUSC, and then we'll be going ahead with TIE. So TIE, I think you both know, but just for anyone who's listening, TIE is a membership network that is across the globe, and then they would really help most of the founders in terms of market access and getting in members as well in terms of investments. And then another strategic partnership that we collaborated over the year, last year, and then came together is WCIC, Women's Industry of Chamber and Commerce, 40-year-old organization. So women-led, supporting women entrepreneurship. I think that would be a great thing for LAN. And then finally, it's going to be the NIA under Science and Technology Ministry, which is the National Innovations Agency, which will have all the funds, the grants, and most links to the government, which will help all of our founders. And then moving on to the HLab fund, Hatch, BOV, and LAN collectively will be raising a fund together to support the ecosystem of five and a matching $5 million US, totaling up to $10 million US to be dispersed into the ecosystem of Sri Lanka. So, and then finally launching the dashboard to connect everything together. So, what are your thoughts on the events, and just give like a small comment on this? Thank you, please.
Packed agenda, I see.
Yeah.
But I think we have to stop being in silos and bring everybody together. So this is a great start, and one of the reasons why we've collaborated with you, because I think collaboration is the only way forward. I think once upon a time, everybody did their own projects, started their own funds, bringing different people, bringing the government in, like Thea mentioned, really understanding their agenda. But I think that whole space for dialogue is something that's also missing, like bringing everybody to have that conversation, making sure that there are systems, forums, spaces like your dashboard where people can access information. I meet investors, potential investors, aspiring investors in Canada, in other parts of the country. They visit here. We have impact funds that come and go because we are sometimes fragmented. So I think LAN has a crucial and important role to play in bringing everybody together here. but also making sure that opportunities like impact funds don't come and go off without, making those decisions. Bringing the right people onto the table, making sure that the policy space is enabling. We are starting to notice policies coming out, so bringing in government to have those conversations and say what are the things that can stay as it is. When new policies come, allow for transition periods, because investors come and they have a plan for 5 years. If a policy is going to come in and that changes their entire investment plan, it's bad for the enterprise, it's bad for the economy, it's bad for the country. Investors can pull out. And no matter how big the world is, sometimes an investment ecosystem is very small. We had several VC managing partners come in. They talk to each other, right? So once burned, they would definitely spread that information saying, I wouldn't touch this economy or this country or this sector, right? I think we need to come together, work with every stakeholder possible, and that's a big part of our ecosystem building work. And we want to purposefully and meaningfully apply a gender lens. We want to make sure that women are not left behind. We provide technical assistance. If there's an Orange Forum coming in October, there are several financial institutions looking at orange bonds to come out. We are here to support, because the idea is that we all work towards that one vision of making sure that we progress towards a prosperous economy in Sri Lanka, and we're doing our part.
Amazing. Yeah, anything to add?
So I think it's great to see this sort of an event which is very investor-centric. Instead of trying to dilute it with multi-stakeholders, having investors better understand the ecosystem and the challenges and the opportunities itself, I think is important. I personally, even though I'm not necessarily a founder per se, or in terms of a nascent stage, I'm probably more mature in terms of the investment side. I happened to attend a similar event, which I think you all were involved in, Mumtaz, with Lynn, right, a few months ago.
Summit.
And over a conversation in that forum, I started a conversation on behalf of a particular entity which I currently chair. And today I have 2 offers of impact funding for totaling $9 million that started in that event. Just over lunch and the conversation, multiple conversations, and then, so that is I think this is a direct result of benefiting from something like that. And I think I'd like to see more and more of that sort of cross-fertilization in this sort of events, leading into investors themselves seeing investable opportunities.
That's great. That's really great. So just to wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know, Mumtaz, you have like a very busy agenda these days with the event and everything. Yeah, I know you have like even busier agenda. So thank you again. Thank you for coming in, and I hope to see you at the event next week.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you.